Hey, peeps, what's up? This is your girl, JQue. You're listening to Valley Sounds on 89.3 Huntsville. I'm super excited and um, wonderfully blessed, actually, to have a grand musician in the studio today. And I'm going to tell everybody and all the listeners a little bit about how you got started in music.
Well, right now I'm living in Muscle Shoals, and I've been there about 11 years. But as I got started, when I was born, my mom and dad both sang backup for a gospel band. So the first 3 years of my life, I was on a tour bus, traveling around and doing that. And then they settled down, and we all went our separate ways. And then I really didn't do anything with music until I got into high school, and I met my best friends, which we've been friends now for 30 years. And they were musicians, and I always wanted to do it, but I didn't really do anything. So I sang. I started out as a singer and, learned their songs. And they let me audition for their band, and God bless them. I know I wasn't good, but, they were friends. So like, hey, he's our friend, so we want him in the band. So they let me in the band. So it gave me a chance to find myself, find my voice. And then after that went on for a little while, the bands kept breaking up. And I said, well, I need to learn to play something. I need to learn to play an instrument. So I remember one day in high school, my senior year, I skipped school and went and bought my first guitar. And then I just, back then, we didn't have, the internet and all that stuff where you go online and learn songs. So I used to do it old school, like listen to a tape, rewind, play and learn a song, try to find the key. So I had to learn to play by ear. And that's how I learned how to play guitar, doing that and watching my other friends play guitar. And then I just took what I learned from there and just, luckily I found my own sound. Took a while, but I found my own sound. And, I've been doing this full time now for about 11 years. That's how I make my living, just playing out at, bars, restaurants, and breweries and weddings. And haven't played a bar mitzvah yet, but yeah, it's on my list. But yeah, I'm really, really, truly blessed to be able to do what I love for a living because, I've been on the other side of it. When I lived in Wisconsin, that's where my wife is from. We moved up there. And I remember working on the loading docks out there in the wintertime with it snowing. And I was like, man, I really, really, really want to be doing something else. I really need to do music, but I just didn't have the opportunity. I just didn't have the opportunity to do it. And luckily, when we moved back down here, I got the opportunity and everything's worked out. So
You were playing live, and man, to hear you live is like really invigorating
thank
to
you.
hear you and to see you play live. How do you create that sound, or how do you engage the people that are coming to hear you live versus when you're playing it on your EP or your album?
Yeah, it's funny you ask that question because I'm trying to capture that live feel, that live vibe. I feel like I'm better live than I am in the studio. Sometimes in the studio you get nervous and you don't have that energy to feed off, from the people. And so I'm trying to figure out how to capture that into my live recordings, which, I think I've done a pretty good job on my studio album, but still you can't replace that feeling, that vibe that you're getting off of everybody when everything's going good. You just can't beat a live show. And I think it's true. The live show really tells the tale because, as you know, in the studio, there's a lot of bells and whistles you can add and hide behind. So I think live really tells the tale. If you can pull it off live, then I think you got something.
That is true. I've heard a lot of people, a lot of artists on their album, and then when it's time to go hear them live, it's like, whoa.
So where's the guy that I heard on track 4?
Yeah. And I know you do the
Exactly.
renditions a little differently when you do them live because, again, you want to give the people something different every single time.
Sure.
But some of the sound is just totally different
It's
than what you hear.
like a new song, like a whole totally different song.
Yes.
And I believe in like adding your own style to it, but I believe you got to keep it familiar. Where people recognize it, like, oh, I know that song, but I hadn't kind of heard it this way, the way they do this here. You keep it familiar, but still you put your own spin on it.
When you're not making music, writing music, thinking music, living music, what do you do?
Sleep.
I think I do that
Yeah,
too.
I do.
When I'm not doing what I do or when I'm not doing my passions, I try to get a nap in every now and
I
then.
do, man. I know it's a little cliche to say, but man, I really do 24/7 when I'm not sleeping. I'm really either working on my bookings, working on writing, or, trying to come up with some plan for what's next in line for me. I really, because I've got a passion for it, and this is how I make my living. And if I'm not going to do it, nobody else is going to do it for me. So I've got to step up and just do it myself and really concentrate and be persistent and consistent with it.
It sounds like you have been on a up, down, up, down, up, down path with your music for quite some time.
Pretty much. And when I was in Wisconsin, one of the coolest things I've got to do is I was a praise and worship leader at our church for, probably about 3 years. And then that's right before we moved back down here. So it's been up and down. But the key is just to stick with it and stay persistent. I mean, I'm still waiting for my big opportunity, and I know if it's supposed to happen, it's going to happen. If not, hey, it's not a bad way to make a living. I'm really blessed.
Especially doing something that you love, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
I truly love it.
So you classify yourself as a blues slash
soulful. Well, I came up with a sound. A lot of times people say, what is your sound? So I came up with a sound that's called melodic soul.
Melodic soul.
Melodic soul.
Wow.
I love the melodies of music, but I love when you really put your soul into it. I think that's true music is when you're putting your soul into it. You believe in it, and you believe what you're singing about, you believe what you're writing about. And even doing covers, you got to make it believable to the people that's listening to you as if you had wrote that song yourself. It's not necessarily about sounding like the person that you're trying to cover. It's just making it believable and making it familiar, but really putting your soul. So melodic soul, that's what I classify myself as.
How many songs do you have out there, Tim?
I've written 62 songs. I'm ready to play out and everything, and I've got some songs on my website and that I recorded when I first moved to town with the guys from Shenandoah over in Muscle Shoals, and I'm proud of it. I was trying to get my foot in the door, and luckily since then my sound has grown, and I've nurtured it, and I've really honed in on what I really like to do, and what I really like to sing about, and how I really like to write.
You have been on the Tennessee Valley and Huntsville music scene for a while, and as of lately, this music scene is really growing, and it is getting massive and in-depth, and there is a lot of gifted and talented artists out there. How do you stay relevant in the midst of all that, especially in the Tennessee Valley?
Well, what I like to do is, if I ever get a day off, I like to go out and check out local music, like seeing some of the newer artists coming up and see what kind of styles they play, and and I'm learning new songs, because right now I think I've got 450 songs in my list of covers that I do, and I'm constantly learning because I don't want to keep playing the same songs that I was playing 6 or even 10 years ago, because you want to be relevant, you want to stay fresh. There's some songs that I will play at every show, because they're my favorite, like Sam Cooke, A Change Is Gonna Come. That's always going to be in my show.
Yeah, I've heard you do that one a lot of times, and I love it when you do it. Don't stop.
Thank you. And I love songs like that, but I think you need to, you need to stay fresh. You need to mix it up a little bit. Like, 1 month I'll do a certain set list at my shows, and I'll throw in different ones. The next month I may totally change it up, and because a lot of times doing what I do, you play a lot of the same places, at some point. So you don't want to do the same show every time if you don't have to. If you've got enough songs, do it. If not, that's fine. If you do only have a certain amount of songs, switch them up. Don't do the same thing, like say, okay, it's 10 o'clock, he's doing Brown Eyed Girl. You don't want to become that kind of artist, predictable. You want to keep people on their toes and keep wowing them.
And that's by diving into the culture.
Exactly.
How has it evolved? You've been around for 11 years, especially coming out of Muscle Shoals. How has it evolved and affected how you evolve through your music?
Yeah, it's evolved. Like when I first started, I didn't know anything about what I was doing. I didn't know any of the artists around here. And as far as the venues, luckily the venues I've seen the venues evolve to be more accepting of, artists like me, like solo acoustic artists. So back then, a lot of times it was bands, a lot of venues wanted bands. They wanted bands to bring that vibe, and like I've seen it evolve to where now, solo acoustic musicians are, in high demand. And that's great, for guys like me. But, I wish that there was a good balance, because there's a lot of great bands out there, and they sometimes don't get the opportunity to play as much as they should, because a lot of these places are doing the solo acoustic stuff, which is awesome for me. But it'd be awesome if a lot of venues had solo acoustic nights and they had band nights. They evened it up to make it more beneficial for everybody.
One artist, local or not local, that if you had the opportunity to play with them or create a song with them, who is the one artist that you would choose?
Probably, I've got two, either Bryan Adams or ZZ Top. Cool story about Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top. I play over in Madison at Buena Vista, and his wife's family is originally from here. And last December, I was playing the show there, and I knew who he was right when he walked through the door, because he's got that distinctive look. So I was real cool, and I was like a little nervous, but I finished my show. And what I do, like at my shows, like in between sets, I walk around and I talk to people and just say thank you for stopping in and hanging out. And I think every artist should do that. So if you don't do that, please make sure that you thank the patrons that are coming there, because if they weren't there, they wouldn't be able to book you. So anyway, back to my story. So I knew he was there, so I saved him for last. And I didn't want to bother him. I knew he was hanging out with his family, so I walked up to him and said, Mr. Gibbons, I said, I'm a huge fan. I love what you do. Thank you for putting out some great music. And I said, I'll let you get back to your meal. And he shook my hand and goes, pull up a chair and sit down with me for a while. So I sat down and talked to him for about 30 minutes, and he asked me, he goes, would you ever be willing to fly out to Houston? I said, yeah, absolutely. He said, you have a card? And I gave him my card. He goes, I would love to do a song with you and do some stuff in the studio with you. And so I was like, I was totally excited. So he said he would get in touch with me, but I haven't heard from him yet. And one of my things I regret is I didn't get his number. But, if it's supposed to happen, it'll happen. But that's cool that he said that. He was kind enough to, want to do some work with me. So I'm still keeping my fingers crossed on that one.
Wow.
That'll give me some huge street cred right there.
Whoa,
right?
shoot.
You know
have
what I'm
way
saying?
more than street credit on that, brother.
Yeah,
You'd be
yeah.
like up on the way up
I
to
would
the
be.
top, to the top, to the top.
But yeah, there's a lot of great artists out there.
That means you write, you produce, you play. Everything you do is all Tim
It's
Cannon.
all me. I book my own shows, and everything I do is all me, yes.
What is your advice to other one-person shows when it comes to music and getting out there?
I think the best advice I can give is, like, when if you want to get out there and play, and when you contact these venues, be professional. You're not a star yet, but even if you're a star, there's a way to treat people and a way to act professional. And when you do get the gig, show up on time. Be ready. If you're supposed to play at 8 o'clock, be ready to play at 8 o'clock. Don't set up at 8 o'clock, but be professional, be respectful to the venue. If they ask you to turn it down as much as they want you to, because at that time you're there working for them and they're paying you for your services. And so you just don't let them dictate your show, but just be respectful of what they ask, because they know their crowds maybe a little bit better than you do. They know what people like, how loud they like to listen to it, or how soft they like to listen to it. So just gauge, just be professional and, show up and put in the work before you get there. Don't act like you don't know the song. If you don't know the song, don't play it. I mean, because people want to hear a finished product. They want to see your confidence. That's what they're there for. They want to know that you're a professional. They want to enjoy the show. They don't want to be embarrassed for you, like, oh, God, he don't know the song. So
Yeah.
Be professional. I guess that's the main word, professional. And be true to your craft, and be blessed and be humble to be able to do it for a living, and thankful that somebody wants to pay you for doing something that you love. I mean, I never thought that I'd be able to do that. It's just, sometimes it blows my mind. I'm grateful and blessed, but I never thought that I'd get paid to do what I love. So
Horizon, what's next? What's the next big thing?
next big thing.
Yes, for you.
What I want to do in 2019 is, get some really good recordings, just acoustic and vocal of my newer songs that I've written. And I'm really wanting to try, I don't know why I haven't done this before, but I really want to try a lot of songwriting contests. Just like submit them and kind of put it on the back burner. And if something awesome happens with them, it will. But I don't know why I haven't done that already. It's just one of those things, like, duh, because it's easy. You just submit it. If they like it, they like it. If they don't, they don't. just keep moving on. But that's really one of my goals of 2019 is focusing more and building up more my songwriting, my original material. Let it be in the forefront instead of playing covers. I love playing covers, but there's a time you gotta step up and you gotta make some things happen.
On your personal playlist right now, what do you listen to from your own music that really gets you going and get you encouraged?
Like my songs that I
Yeah,
love?
your songs.
Yeah, I love, like the one I sent you is it's called Love Song. I love that song because it's comes from a special place. I wrote it, for my wife, because I'm not always easy to live with and I'm not perfect. And, but one thing that is true is how much I love her and how much I appreciate her sticking with me on this journey because being married to a musician, I know it ain't easy because I'm gone a lot. I miss a lot of things. But she's my number one fan and she's my number one encourager. And sometimes I don't make it easy, but she's still there with me. So that's one of my favorite songs that I've written. And as a songwriter, I believe that you should write songs that come from a true place and, I'm a lyricist first, I guess, because I believe in a real good story. That's what makes a good song, and then melody later. But, that's my favorite.
Any songs for any other artists that have come to fruition? Or
I've gotten 3 songs that I've sent out to people, and when I first started, I had 2 songs. Darius Rucker had 2 of them. He didn't record them yet, and then this past year, I got a song to Chris Stapleton. And so I hadn't heard anything about that yet. But, hey, I'm keeping my fingers crossed. And as a songwriter, you try not to get too excited about things like that. It is exciting, but if you get too excited, you might be disappointed later on down the road. You just got to submit it and keep on writing and keep on pushing. And when that phone call comes, then that's going to make it all the better.
Well, Tim, it has been such a pleasure having you in the studio for Valley Sounds, man.
It is my pleasure. Thank you so much for reaching out and asking me to do this. I think a lot of you guys, and I really appreciate the support that you give in the local community. And, I'm a big fan of yours, and it's just an honor for me to be sitting here hanging out with you and talking shop.
Chop and chop.
Chop and chop.
Yeah, so what's the one last thing that you would love to leave our listeners? Any advice or positive words of encouragement or anything for our listeners?
Yeah, I would say, as far as the local music scene, please go out and support the local music. There's a lot of great musicians out there who love doing what they do. And as an artist, it's so encouraging to have an audience out there who are listening to what you do and appreciating what you do. And it's motivation for me to keep doing what I'm doing. And it's just, there's no better feeling in the world. So just go out and support local music and do what you can to encourage it.
Thank you, Tim, once again for joining me on Valley Sounds.
This is Tim Cannon. I'm with my girl JQue, and you're listening to Valley Sounds on WLRH 89.3 Huntsville.
Dang snaggets, you did that!